Morning, everybody. Today is Friday, July 7th, 2023, and it's our Mastermind Mastery Meeting. Friday Mastermind Mastery Meetings are probably my favorites because we get to review an amazing book or, part of an amazing book. For those who don't know, my name is Coach Alexander, Coach AD, head coach of the Alpha Hierarchy. So this week, we are continuing with our review of The Alchemist, a book by Paulo Coelho. And in the last week, we did section 1 and section 2. We were able to cover that. Today, we're going to go into section 3 and hopefully beyond. So anyway, from where we stopped last week in section 3, Melchizedek, which is the king of Salem, or the man who claims to be the king of Salem, enlightened Santiago about the notion of the personal legend. The personal legend embodies the deepest aspirations that a person yearns to fulfill in their lifetime. So as children, we are inherently aware of our personal legends. But as we age, a mysterious force gradually convinces us that our dreams are unattainable. Why this is, I don't know, but every child aspires to be someone great. No child ever aspires to be average and ordinary, but as we go through life, that fades. So that's what this part is about. So Melchizedek basically questions Santiago's choice about choice to lead the life of a shepherd. When Santiago expresses his fondness for travel, Melchizedek draws his attention towards a nearby baker. Despite the baker's desire to travel, he chose his profession based on societal expectations that deem bakers as more significant than shepherds. Melchizedek expresses his concern that Santiago may abandon his personal legend and declare that he manifests himself to those who are on the verge of surrendering their dreams. He usually presents himself as a solution or an idea and once materialized as an emerald for a miner. So Melchizedek offers his assistance to Santiago in return for a tenth of his sheep. Santiago, upset by the encounter, thinking, who the heck is this man, wanders aimlessly around the city. He buys bread from the baker, the very baker that Melchizedek referred to. He comes across a booth selling both tickets to Africa. Africa is where the pyramids are, where his treasure supposedly is. But he decides to continue his shepherd's life. When a powerful wind known as the levanter arises, Santiago literally becomes jealous of the wind's unrestrained nature. Like the wind goes wherever it wants. And, Santiago at this point in time has an epiphany and he decides that the merchant's daughter, remember the one he met and fell in love with, or thought he fell in love with, and basically his sheep, because he's a shepherd, are merely stepping stones on his path to his personal legend. So Santiago, what he does with his 6 sheep, locates Melchizedek the following day. And he says, listen, Melchizedek, I've sold the rest of my flock and I'm ready to make this happen. Melchizedek then directs Santiago to Egypt by the pyramids, where he can unearth his treasure. Santiago initially feels frustrated by the vagueness of the location, pyramids. He's like, I don't know anything about specific pyramids, but then he sees a butterfly. Melchizedek elucidates that the butterfly is Santiago's first omen and uncovers a bejeweled breastplate from beneath his cape. That's Melchizedek. He gives Santiago 2 stones from the breastplate, and the stones are known as Urim and Thummim, symbolizing yes and no, respectively, to help him interpret omens. So, omens are part of this book, as some of you have concluded, and these 2 stones, Urim and Thummim, one is a yes, one is a no stone, help him interpret omens. Melchizedek shares a tale about a shopkeeper who sent his son to the wisest man in the world to learn the secret of happiness before he leaves. The boy finds the man in a magnificent castle in the desert. The wise man tasks the boy to explore the castle while balancing a spoonful of oil. Well, the boy takes him up on the offer, and he's busy exploring the castle with his spoonful of oil. Upon returning, the boy tells reports that, look, I explored the castle, but I was so focused on my oil that I couldn't admire the castle's grandeur. So what does the wise man do? The wise man sends the boy out again. And this time, the boy takes in the castle's beauty, but spills the oil. So when he comes back, the wise man advises him that he should learn to do what? Appreciate the castle without forgetting about the oil. And this story reminds Santiago that a shepherd must always remember his flock. Don't get caught up in whatever. As Santiago's ship sails off to Africa, Melchizedek reminisces about striking the same deal with Abraham as he did with Santiago. So when we look at this section, section 3, let's look at a few points that I think are very salient. I think Santiago's encounter with Melchizedek marks the pivot point in his life as he learns about the concept of personal legends and their significance to living a purposeful life. See, each and every one of us in this organization, each and every person listening to the sound of my voice, deep down within you, either you've aspired to live a purposeful life, or you aspire to live a purposeful life. I don't think anyone has ever said, I just want to exist until I die. I mean, people who have sense. People who don't have sense, we don't address those people. That's not our focus. So anyway, Santiago realizes that, about his personal legend and the significance of leading a purposeful life, and he sets out on his voyage to Egypt. And now the narrative primarily revolves around his pursuit of his dream and his desire, his quest to actualize his personal legend. Now, the Alchemist follows a path that we've all read or we're familiar with, which is the follow your dreams narrative in storytelling. Melchizedek's teachings stand distinct in some crucial aspects. Like, what are those crucial aspects? One, he says that individuals are aware of their personal legends from when they're very young. Contrary to what a lot of other scholarly works of literature state, which is, people become of their personal legends later in life. Secondly, and I think this is very important, the tale of the baker exemplifies how social expectations can sabotage the pursuit of one's personal legend. You want to be everything, but society expects you to be this, and you give up your goals and dreams in order to be that. And at the end of the day, you live your life, and you have what? You have regrets because you never lived to your potential. The baker's desire to conform to society's conventional perception of success caused him to lose sight of his true personal legend. Sad, but true. Yet, as Melchizedek illustrates, the resistance from society and the pressures of aging serve as essential catalysts in equipping an individual to realize their goal. You can use those things as a wind behind you, or you can use those things as a wind to stop you. My advice, obviously, is use everything around you as a wind to propel you forward. Santiago's flock also serves as a metaphor, representing how the little things we have, the material things we have, can either facilitate or hinder the journey we have towards accomplishing our personal goals and dreams, about accomplishing our personal legend. For example, without his sheep, Santiago wouldn't have been able to negotiate with Melchizedek for the hint about his personal legend's next phase. Conversely, his flock brought him material prosperity and contentment, tempting him to abandon his personal legend and stay in Spain. So he could have said, I am content, I'm a shepherd, I have a lot of sheep, I don't need to do more. Or on the other hand, having those sheep actually enabled him to sell them and get his ticket and get more input from Melchizedek. Observing the powerful levanter wind, Santiago understands his need to move with the same freedom. Once he perceives his flock as a stepping stone towards his ultimate goal, rather than an end in itself, he experiences what? He experiences newfound freedom, very similar to the wind. This understanding that one must evolve unencumbered by material possessions, along with the symbolism of the wind, reoccurs throughout the book. Coelho adapts several literary techniques in this section, making it seem almost mythical. He introduces terms and concepts like the soul of the world, the personal legend, and the warriors of light, which after this keep on reappearing throughout the book. The recurrence of these terms, often in capitalized forms, combined with the biblical and Quranic connotations like the Lamb of God or Insha'Allah, which means as Allah wills, imparts a spiritual tone to the narrative, suggesting what? A higher power governing the visible world. So, this book talks about the spiritual world quite often. It emphasizes that repeatedly. Another strategy used by Coelho to lend a mythical quality to the book involves using stories as moral parables. Storytelling, we've spoken about this in general, but this book does a lot of it. Instead of the speakers just to say do this, they use what? They use parables to explain things. Specifically, Melchizedek's tale of the baker, Melchizedek's tale of the miner and the shopkeeper's son bear resemblance to the moral allegories found in what? In spiritual texts. As a result, the Alchemist reads more like a fable echoing the Bible or even the Quran than a work of realism. And that's basically section 3. And again, guys, I'm not a professional book reviewer, so my suggestion is go read the book. This is from my notes, but you go read the book, have your own notes, have your own understanding. It's The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Great book. Anyway, section 4. Upon reaching Tangier, which is in Algiers, modern-day Algiers, as far as I recall, Santiago finds himself at a local bar. Observing the unfamiliar customs around him, such as people smoking hookah, or shisha, as some people call it, and public displays of affection, he disdainfully labels the locals as infidels. His primary concern becomes his inability to speak Arabic. Tangier, Algeria is in Algeria where they speak Arabic. And his only consolation is the money he carries. So a guy who is about the same age as Santiago approaches him speaking in Spanish. Santiago is excited and reveals his plan to journey to the pyramids and proposes to hire the man as a guide. Man says, listen, Santiago, I wouldn't go if I were you. Crossing the Sahara Desert is no joke. And then he insists that Santiago demonstrates his financial capability for the journey. After an intense conversation with the bar owner, the young man hustles Santiago out of the bar, accusing the owner of being a thief. Santiago then does what? I guess he's naive, but whatever the case is, Santiago entrusts his money to this young man whose only common ground is that he speaks Spanish and says, hey, buy the camels we need for the journey. As they navigate through a bustling market, Santiago's attention is caught by a sword on display. He asks the young man, his new Spanish friend, to inquire about its price, only to realize what? Anybody who's read this book already knows what's about to happen. Anybody who lives in New York already knows what's about to happen. Anybody who's gone through life in a major city already knows what's about to happen. But if you don't know, I'll tell you. He looks for his newfound friend to say, hey, what? And what happens? The guy has jackpot, as they say in Nigerian slang. He has disappeared. He has run away with Santiago's money. The entire money Santiago brought with him from Spain, everything he got from selling his selling his sheep, everything that he had left, he gave to this young man. Why he did it, only God knows. But he had nothing left. Santiago, I guess, being naive, waits till dusk, hoping for the man to return, and finally breaks down in tears when he grasps that he's been deceived. To tell a personal story similar to this, when I was about 15, I decided to I owned my own business back then. I was and it doesn't matter. It was a legal business. It wasn't illegal. And I wanted to buy my first motorcycle, actual motorcycle, not a bicycle, a motorcycle. And I had finished high school. So my father was actually like, okay, go ahead and do it. My mother, not so much. And I had made a lot of money from my business. So I had enough to go buy a bike. It was maybe a few $1,000s. And I went to where they sold bikes. This was in Lagos, Nigeria. And I found somebody that I thought was going to get the bike. And the guy said, yeah, but you need to give me X amount of money. And I'll go get the bike for you to prove that you're serious, yada, yada, yada. Needless to say, I gave that man the money. I have not seen nor have I heard from that man till today. I just hope that the money that he got by, this was a grown man, that the money he got by swindling a 15-year-old or 16-year-old boy helped him better his life. If not, maybe he ended up dead in a ditch somewhere. Who knows? But obviously, I mean, Santiago learned the same lesson. Anyway, back to the story. So Santiago at this point in time assesses his leftover belongings, which include his book, his jacket, and the yes and no wounds given to him by Melchizedek. He contemplates selling the stones to fund his journey back home. He is dejected. He wants to go back to Spain. But as he attempts to consult the magical stones about his treasure, he discovers that they've slipped through a hole in his pocket. As he retrieves them, he recalls his commitment to making his own decisions and decides to do what? To press on with his request, or rather with his quest, not his request. So Santiago does what? Spends the night in the market. He has no money, he has no friends, he has nowhere to go. So he spends the night in the market, sleeping basically wherever he could, waking up as merchants start their daily setup. A candy seller offers him a sweet, his first in the city. And what does Santiago do? Santiago observes that while some merchants speak Spanish and others speak Arabic, they all manage to communicate seamlessly beyond the confines of language. At this point, he sees a crystal merchant, anxious about his dwindling business, begin his day as well. The crystal merchant's shop is located in a desolate street, and it's worn down. The shop used to be much better when Tangiers was a bustling port, but seemingly at that point in time, a new city or a nearby city named Ceuta has sprung up and has taken away a lot of the merchants' customers. So anyway, that particular day, the crystal merchant notices Santiago browsing his shop. Santiago proposes to clean the shop's windows in exchange for food. Remember, Santiago is hungry. He has no money. All he's had to eat is the sweet. But the merchant doesn't respond. Santiago proceeds with the cleaning, and during this time, 2 customers enter and make purchases. Once Santiago finishes his task, the crystal merchant escorts him to a cafe, explaining that Santiago didn't have to work for his food, as the Quran mandates feeding the hungry. The merchant's obviously Muslim. Santiago counters that both of them need a mental cleanse from negativity. That both he and the merchant who just helped him, seeing the coincidence of customers entering during Santiago's cleaning as a good omen, because again, this book deals a lot with omens and signs, seeing things and putting things together, spiritual things. So seeing the coincidence of customers entering during Santiago's cleaning as a good omen, the crystal merchant offers him a job in return for cleaning all the merchant's crystals overnight. Santiago says, hey, I'll do that, but I need money to reach Egypt. And the merchant says, well, the trip to Egypt is so far and so expensive that even a year's earnings wouldn't suffice to get you there. Although disappointed, Santiago agrees to accept the job. So think about it this way, guys. Santiago left Spain, had enough money to leave Spain, had enough money to get to Africa, and had enough money to get to Egypt from Algeria, from Tangiers. Now that he has to work for this money, he is being told that it's extremely expensive, that even if he works for a whole year, he won't make enough money. So how much money did Santiago have? Obviously a lot of money. Remember, he sold a lot of sheep. He played his cards. He gave everything in the pursuit of his dream. And what happened? Things went south. Things went south. Instead of everything to go smoothly, everything went left, right, down, and every which way possible except up, up, up. So now Santiago, who was expecting to have results, Santiago, who was expecting to triumph, Santiago, who was expecting to have, his dreams come true, is facing disappointment after disappointment, hurdle after hurdle. And this isn't just the point here is that this isn't just something in the book, it's life in general. That's why I keep on saying, read this book. It's life in general. This man gave everything to pursue a dream. Now, mind you, and I'll use this business as an analogy. In this business, we know the business works because we have proof that it works from numerous people. We have mentors, we have colleagues, we have a track record. And yet, and still, when we get in here, certain things don't go right. And when they don't go right, we start second guessing ourselves, we start second guessing our journey, we start second guessing our motives, we start doubting our personal legend. Well, think of Santiago. Santiago risked everything. He had no mentors. He just had a fortune teller and an old man tell him that he's going to be successful. But he had no mentors. He had no guide, nothing. He sold every single possession he had in the pursuit of his dream, in the pursuit of his personal legend. And he got to Algeria, and then due to circumstances beyond his control, because life happens, he ran into a Spanish-speaking person, and he felt like, yes, this is my journey is supposed to be easy. And the person took his money and disappeared. Did Santiago give up? Like most humans, he was contemplating it, but he continued. So anyway, when we look at this particular section, we can see that, specifically speaking of Santiago's experience in Tangier, stepping out of one's comfort zone can be scary, even when it's in the pursuit of one's personal legend. Whomever you are, if you're hearing this, there is no growth that occurs within one's comfort zone. You have to step out of your comfort zone if you want to pursue your personal legend, if you want to pursue your destiny. Upon landing in Tangier, Santiago is filled with suspicion towards the unfamiliar. And remember, he's a Christian from Spain. Back then, they had the Crusades, or the Crusades had just passed, or what have you. So Muslims were considered infidels. So in his mind, Santiago is like, look at these infidels around me. The marked difference in cultural norms and behaviors in Tangiers made him uncomfortable, causing him to harbor resentment towards the place. What happens in this business? People come here, they see we're focused on winning, they see we're focused on numbers, they see we're focused on success, they see we're focused on personal development, and people become uncomfortable. Now, what the heck? What kind of thing is this? Why are they so excited? Life isn't supposed to be exciting. Life is supposed to be dreary. Anyway, the marked difference in cultural norms and behaviors in Tangiers unsettles him, like I said. The mistrust comes at a high price, because what does he do? He does what most people do. He is on a mission, but he hears a familiar voice. And the familiar voice tries to steal his destiny. Why? When he's in the bar, he's talking to the bartender who speaks Arabic. He disagrees with the bartender because he's in a new place, hearing a new language, but because he has a familiar sounding language in his ear, that's the guy who speaks Spanish. The guy tells him, hey, let's do this, that, the other, and the third. And what does he do? He somebody who is established, who knows what, I mean, the bartender had to have been in that bar for a while. Bartender didn't show up at the bar that morning. Bartender is a steady, established person. He didn't listen to the bartender. Instead, he went with someone who is comfortable and familiar. And what happened? This new comfortable and familiar person tried to rob his destiny. Same thing that happens in this business. You come here, you hear from us, people who know what they're doing, and you go home and you go speak to your broke uncle because it's a familiar voice. Your broke uncle says, yeah, that Prime America thing, that thing doesn't work. That thing doesn't work. Or even if you're not in this business, if you're in business period, you put your life's mission to start a company doing XYZ. Somebody who has no business experience tells you, nope, that doesn't work. So anyway, in this book, obviously, this incident forces Santiago to reassess his outlook towards his new environment. Intriguingly, Santiago's distraction by a sword he aspired to possess upon return led him to lose sight of the young man, and ultimately, as you read the book, that's why he lost his money. He looked at the sword. As he got distracted, the young man took the opportunity to disappear. So this instance highlights how an excessive focus on material possession can derail one's pursuit of their personal legend. Santiago was so excited about getting a sword. Why he wanted the sword, I don't know. But anyway, upon nightfall, Santiago's thoughts are consumed by his lost material wealth. He's like, I've lost it all. What do I do? And then he reaches in his pocket again to get his 2 magical stones. And when he does that, his memory gets jogged, and he is reminded of his mission. They remind the stones. So anyway, the recollection of Melchizedek's words instantly reinvigorates Santiago's determination to continue his journey. Interestingly enough, from this point forward in the book, Santiago is referred to as the boy rather than by his name. This, I think, accomplishes 2 things. First, it allows us to perceive him as a mysterious stranger, similar to how characters like the crystal merchant see him. Secondly, it elevates him from an individual character to a universal emblem. The boy could be me, the boy could be you, the boy could be anybody. This shift in reference transforms Santiago into a mythical figure, kind of like how Melchizedek, the king of Salem, evolves into a mythical entity when Santiago forgets his name and begins referring to him as the old man. Consequently, The Alchemist transitions from being a personal narrative about Santiago's adventures to what I'll consider an allegorical tale with universal relevance. This transition prompts the question of why Santiago was ever assigned a name in the first place. Like, why couldn't he just be the boy from the beginning? Obviously, the book doesn't provide an answer, but it can be argued that giving Santiago a name and identity initially allows readers to establish a deeper connection with him. Once this deeper bond is established, the need for his name becomes redundant. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is our book review for today. In 30 minutes, not 3 hours. It's a 30-minute thing. We're done. Please, if you haven't done so already, I'll make the same request I make every week. Go read this book. The reason we read books is so that we can learn from others. When you learn from others, your life becomes easier because you don't have to repeat their mistakes. The best learning, obviously, is from people in real life. Talk to people, but everybody doesn't have access to everybody else. So we read, and when we read, we stretch our thinking. All right, so we have M3 this evening as usual with our amazing Coach Mamba. Till then, God bless America, God bless Team Alpha, and God bless you. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. If like this video, if you're seeing it on YouTube, and of course, do share it.